why Farabi? I choose Farabi. It is because he is relevant in several sense. Just to make an introduction, first, he has a complete system of philosophy with a universal outlook. He is not provincial. And second, he treats early tradition as a common human inheritance, not in terms of location or the time. He has no limits to use the earlier, the human lore or the incremented knowledge or the philosophical ideas. Third, for him, philosophy has its roots first in India, not necessarily today's political, divisions as a continent. And second, from there it went to Sumerians. But I usually tell Professor Dan that I am after the movement of the words. So he says Kildanis get the philosophical, the inheritance. So Kildani today has all different meanings. So in English it is written sometimes Kalde, but in Sumerian tablets we can see that if you have in today's terms doctoral degree, you have to have astronomy, medicine, and also mathematics. So those who pass this level are called Kildani. What's interesting, this is a combined word, and one part lives in Iran, today's Iran. They call it their university Danishgah. So the root is there. In Turkish, two words are also used. One for introduction or getting acquainted, the other is performing. So it is something similar to Latin word operatio. So the knowledge is always for operating, to putting in practice. That was the main reason. And the third one, from through Egypt, it went to Greece, Athens, and then from there come to the Muslim world. So it is different from the modern historical perspective on philosophy. Modern historical perspective, beginning with the ancient Greek philosophy, it is a revolt against the mythology or the common beliefs on the street of Athens and other places. So the philosophy is an abstraction from the public life, and certain individuals try to speculate about nature and the human behavior as opposed to the common belief, and always put in contradiction to each other. So this is something why historically this way for Farabi, religion in terms of the historicity prior, the philosophy prior, because it is human endeavor to speculate about nature, himself, and the beginning and the end of the life. So this is very important. But for this, religions must develop in order to philosophy to have the correct concepts. So there is a philosophy in terms of human beings come onto earth first. That's why philosophy is in terms of time earlier than religion, but in reality, in order for philosophy to develop, you need a religious tradition already established. So it is not a contradiction, but it is a kind of harmonious development. This is very important for him. And philosophy and religion, in that sense, is not conflict but harmony. He's following ancient predecessors, but not blindly. So he is not provincial. We have already mentioned this. He shaped the curriculum of the philosophical education since his time, all over the world. This is not recognized much. The reason for that is the provincialism of the presentation of Farabi, always saying, he developed this part of Aristotle and this part, but between two philosophers, we have 1150 years interval. So how, if those old texts were available, so here lies the genius of Al-Farabi. First of all, it's in the, but later you can read it. It's in the later parts of, because I added later. Actually, my graduate students, I tried them what way they will bring into it, just to make this. But I added these comments later. The reason it is also, here is why Farabi is universal in that sense. When we classify him, so at the beginning, it is the problem of modernity. Of course, in his name, Abu Nasr Al-Farabi ibn Muhammad Tarkan bin Uzluk at Turkey. That is what his original name title in the Muslim sources, history of philosophy sources. So, but in modernity, whether he was, born this part of Iran or, it was, so it is something, again, we are going back to the provincialism. He was born into a town, later become on the Silk Road. It has something related to it. His father was on this, his father was this citadel. It became a citadel now in this.
It doesn't work on the,
Okay, maybe if we push this. No, it doesn't work. But it doesn't change over there. That's the problem. Here probably, they have two different. You just look to side slide probably, or if we turn that on, I don't know.
Yeah, we can do it. I can change that.
Okay. Then, okay. I just, okay, here is where he was born. The village was in Kazakhstan, and the city called Farab, his name comes from, is in Uzbekistan now. So whose Farabi is he? But as I said, his father was a citadel army officer, keeping the caravan roads safe. So this area, I cannot give the name, but I will send you the, probably get used it. a recent book came that this area, the knowledge from this area, is not known yet. An American author wrote and lost enlightenment. We have a few clues about the importance of west of Caspian Sea, because a Muslim source says when the Alexandru the Great has collected all the works in Babylonia and have them translated into 2 volumes, both in Greek and into Egyptian. Later, another king who come into power in this area collected all the works from this area back. This is one thing. Second thing, this area, also Muslim sources talks about after a city, and we don't know where it is yet, but after an earthquake, their library came out, and on the top there were parchment, but so stinking, and they didn't keep intact, but they had tablets, and from those tablets they collected something like 50 volumes of books, and this is a mystery. Which city this was, it give a name, but we don't know much about this. So he from here, from Vesage, his village, it became later a citadel city, he studied something here in Mer. What he studied in Mer, his teacher was a Christian, Ioan bin Mervezi. And he tells that the Christians closed all the schools and only picked up Aristotelian organon up to first analytics. And this wasn't dangerous for the religion, but there was only one man who studied, and I studied with this man in Mer, you see. In today's it is in Afghanistan. So the logic, and that's why he became the second master. He added posterior analytics and the sophists and rhetorics and poetry all together, and later it found out, and probably it is from the Neoplatonist tradition, Porphyrios had this collection. So it became the true Farabi's, commentaries on Aristotelian organon, altogether 8 books, and plus the introduction by Porphyry, become these 9 books up until now, one of the major, introductory, study area, including madrasas, and even today the Iranian mullahs read, a commentary by a 14th century Ottoman scholar in the Qum. So the logic was so important for him that it was the introduction to philosophy. Can you go a little bit further? I'll show you the works here. Yeah. And anyway, you can see his travel. He came to today's Tehran. It was called Rey at the time, and Hamadan, and this is now archaeological site where he was born. And okay, go to works, and as you can see, all his books, Burhan, Ceder, and Talikat, Uyunul Mesail, not all they listed two people prepared different things, and I couldn't put it up, but you can find in Richard Walzer has a Al-Farabi's bibliography in English, complete works, and today's. Anyway, as you can see, he wrote introductory book to philosophy. For instance, في فلسفة وسبب ظهورها. What is the reason for philosophy to, say, develop? And also, he has a book on, here it is called Kitab al-Cem Beyn al-Hakimeyn, two philosophers, Plato and Aristotle. Actually, in one sense, he is the inventor of modern Western philosophy. If he didn't do it this way, from an historical perspective, I'm not an expert in religious history, but mainly the early Christian, the controversies were about whether you follow Plato or, to a degree, certain Aristotelian logic. But the European side, I think the Aristotelian logic, through Farabi's works, created the scholasticism. And it is kind of put the Augustinian more in line with Plato. Augustinian spirituality, put that under shadow, or whatever way you express it. But Farabi, with this Kitab al-Cem Beyn al-Hakimeyn, not the controversy, harmony between two philosophers, is a very famous work for the early Renaissance philosophers. Especially, you can see that in Mirandola's library was sold, and we have a list of the books, not all the names, but at least you can see, more than half of the books in his collection was translations or the Arabic original, because he was studying Arabic with a Jewish rabbi. And it is just these are, but it's just something we can go on. And the other important thing, let me just put it here. Ihsa Ulum is where I definitely recommend that it should be available in Romanian too. Probably there are more than in 25 languages. But I don't know whether it is, but it is one of the, in first 10 books in English, in 5 books in Italian, same in German and French, when those become like literary languages. Because of its importance, and also in the same line, Thomas Aquinas wrote Division de la Science, Scienza, or his own division, because this book shows us where to start. First, you have to start the language. This is how the university curriculum should be planned. Now, what we are doing is we are trying to teach languages very early age. For that reason, in Britain, it is called grammar school. the primary school is called the grammar school. So then you have to teach logic and then mathematics. You see, it is then you teach natural sciences. He gives all the details, but what is important is he doesn't consider astrology as a science. Here is what gets wrong. So the modernity is, using a different tool. First of all, in the Western tradition, taking modernity as a revolt against Aristotelianism and scholasticism through Bacon and to a certain extent Descartes. And so what is interesting, when they say that Al-Farabi is the follower of the ancient Greek philosophers, they're disregarding him. Actually, from that perspective, we have to think that the Farabi is not, is the one who created the modernity in that sense. Not taking that all the Aristotelian logic was wrong, but it added another dimension, but not necessarily himself, but also his close follower, Avicenna. They added, as you know, Aristotelian logic is binary logic. Something is right or wrong. You see, a proposition either approved or denied, right? But because they are on the road from east to west, on the road of what is called Silk Road, from the very beginning, it is reflected in his political philosophy. We have to take into consideration the three basic necessities of life: food, drink, and a place to shelter. So, in that sense, they are already familiar with the differences of cultural backgrounds and things like that, but what is common between? So, in that sense, they added what is called modal logic. So the if then, under the condition, so they are multiplied the logical probabilities. So the life is not black and white. And the third option is not just the gray. Sometimes it is something beyond. It is, so in that sense, thus disparaging this as, Oriental is missing the point. But what we need in modern times is this kind of a broadened logic, because every society it has multi-ethnic, multi-religious, right? And diverse societies. We are living in diverse societies. So our philosophies are just, on the dichotomies. If we establish our outlook on these dichotomies, we will be in the wrong track. So in that sense, Farabi's logic as being introduction to philosophy and expanded through these modalities, so that you can change it, please. Modalities is important. Here is, I'm not going to read it, but you can later read it. Here he shows how the philosophy become another academic subject of study after the closing of the schools. He says it's from Antioch to Harran, today's Urfa in Turkey, the south east. And you see Yohanna ibn Haylan, it must be changed. And also Ibrahim al-Merwezi, the Merv city, here I show. So these two people kept Aristotelian logic. You can change it, this high one, this n is spurious. Yeah. And okay, now here is one of his treatises. This is general, the books always in the Muslim tradition with praise to God and the Prophet, and also same praise is later the scribes use the same praise for the author of the book. So that's why Abu Nasr Muhammad ibn Al-Farabi, may God mercy him, and then the books begins like this. I put this, why it is so, it is a tradition. So because everything we have, if you just interpret it, we must be thankful to God. You see? So our aim in this treatise, Examine the Art of Logic, is that it covers the principles, supports the power of thinking on every subject, but no limit, including metaphysics or theology. And it goes, logic is the same, probably there is some error here. Position of grammar vis-a-vis reason is like the position of grammar vis-a-vis language. Position of, it's repeated. He meant this position of the grammar for language is the same with the position of logic to reason. So it is a long quotation, but we will correct it. It regulates the language of a nation. What today we are lacking is this common logic. You see, people are all making emotional exclamations. But what is universal is the logic. It is based on a different anthropological sense of human being. We will come to that. So it supports the intellect in thinking correctly about everything. So grammar of language and relation to words is like, okay, here it is the correct one. Also, grammar is the measure of, in terms of what is likely to go wrong in expression. Likewise, reasoning about potentially erroneous information is the measure of reason. So here again, it is universals in the sense that the languages, we have a paper now in the process, I think, of publication, but he previously defended the same idea attributed to Noam Chomsky. Because what is common in languages is the grammar is a universal for him. But the tools that operates with that grammar are different in languages. So just like we call a small hat a house, a brick one, a cement one, you see, a wood one, we call all of them house, right? So in terms of the function, grammar is universal. That is what he means by this. Yeah, you can change it, please. Okay. You already talked about the time he lived in Abbasid period. So you can think that there was a map of his travels. So it covered also the Abbasid area of domination at the time. So just pass the other one. So it means it is already, there is this wrong idea that a personal choice of somebody being Muslims, and in the area that under the Abbasid rule, for instance, only after 400 years, Muslim population become majority. So it is a process, not all. So it means this kind of universalist outlook created a different social, relations. So in that sense, Farabi probably both knew, because we take them as exaggerations. The first historic kind of history of philosophy almanac written after like 50 years after his death. Only one paragraph is given to him, but around that time, Avicenna became famous, and the news about his early life is so, exaggerated. And some says he knew 70 languages. And this kind of stories, he went to a court meeting, in one of the viziers or a governor's house, the intellectuals or the people meet for discussion something, and he came late and nobody pay attention to him. He just drove his small instruments to make all of them sleep. And a few hours later, he came play something else to wake them up, give him. So we don't know, first Muslim philosophers, first of all were medicine, their expertise were in medicine. So the Kindi, who have an office in central Baghdad, but he was known to be a little bit stingy. He was living in, the very rich area of the city, so they have all the, handiworkings in those houses, and he didn't say he was a doctor. So those, the folks on the street will come for a free treatment. But on the other hand, there is a Razi, Abu Bakr al-Razi, and he has 1 day of free treatment for the poor. So this is called first Muslim Arab philosopher. So the other was called Zindik. It means lower than infidel, probably today's deist. And in that sense, so they were not only familiar with the Greek philosophy, but also with the, as he said, it started in India. Some of the, say, Indian lore, and even the, say, Buddha and Confucius probably were known through either with the, those tradesmen, or they were coming to study them together, people from that area. So, in that sense, influenced all the ancient civilizations, Egypt, India, Assyria, Babylonia. So, in return, Farabi became the philosopher. Because, for instance, Avicenna says that on the matters of ethics and politics, there is nothing much to say about on these subjects after Farabi. And he shadowed Farabi because so there is Farabi died 950, and he was like 1038, 37. So that is almost 80 years. And in terms of the writing material and the availability, Farabi is very, the short sentences and not voluminous books, but when it comes to Ibn Sina, he became even a vizier at the time, today's prime minister, and he had more resources, so he wrote 6 volumes of Shifa. Here, Shifa means the spiritual well-being. It's a philosophical encyclopedia, all following the Farabi's division of sciences. It starts with logic, mathematics, natural science, and then a book on psychology, and after that you have the practical sciences. So this division, although follows Aristotle, but what is interesting in Al-Farabi is this. He says the theoretical sciences, including metaphysics that we already counted, is the ones by learning we don't change the object, but the practical sciences, by learning we change ourselves. Here is the importance of, in terms of the spirituality. Those sciences are moral sciences. Now, economos, it is the family ethics, or including the, how they say, certain arts and, living livelihood, ways of livelihood, including probably today's house economics, employment and things like that. So, morality in relation to other people, and the politics. So, in that sense, if you just go a little bit down before, epistemology, reason, and we have 3 sources of knowledge. One is the experience, the other is reason, and the third one is intuition. So intuition makes it possible for arts, and also it is at the basis of mystical experience, as well as he means by intuition the revelation. It's one of the form of difference between the others. A person intuits something from these experience and reason, and it's a kind of jump. Not necessarily without developing experience and reason, you don't have intuition. But the revelation is quite different. It is given to an elected person. So the Farabi's harmony between religion and philosophy lies in this. Human beings, through philosophical education, from concrete to abstract, lose touch with the concrete eventually. But the real happiness is immaterial. Thinking is something immaterial. It is like the heavenly motion, endless. So in morality you have virtues of body, virtues of moral virtues, but the higher virtue is the virtue of reasoning.